I'm going to get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world, to join us to talk about the CSE Institute, which is the Institute to Address Commercial Sexual Exploitation here at Villanova Law School. Also, congratulations to all of you for being accepted. This is really exciting. Such a great time in your lives. I remember it fondly a million years ago. I am Shea Rhodes. I am the director and the co-founder of the Institute to Address Commercial Sexual Exploitation, or the CSE Institute here at Villanova Law. I am also an alum of the law school. I graduated from law school before all of you were born, which is really dating me. No, I'm kidding. But 25 years ago, I graduated from Villanova Law. And never in a million years did I think my practice would come full circle and I would be back here working with the future lawyers of the world. But I have to say that things happen for a reason, and it's really amazing. I spent a lot of my career, about 10 years or so, as a prosecutor for the city of Philadelphia. And I've worked in private practice. I've worked in nonprofit organizations representing victims of sexual violence. And now with the Institute, I do a lot of, obviously with our team, my team of lawyers and students, a lot of policy work trying to make the laws better in Pennsylvania and nationally for victims of sex trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation. And we also basically have, the way I explain it to people is that we run like a nonprofit organization, basically out of the basement of the law school, because that's where we're located. And we do everything on behalf of survivors, including, I have Mary, she's going to introduce herself to you in a minute, is my newest attorney, but we do direct legal services and represent victims of sex trafficking and exploitation, helping them solve some pretty big legal problems that they do have. But I know that all of you probably have a ton of questions, and, even career-wise, my career has taken me all over the place, and again, back here to the law school. And I just actually arrived back in the US last week after spending 6 months in Europe on a Fulbright scholarship, looking into laws and policies in 2 of the European countries. So, your law career can take you really far. And it can also bring you right back to where your law career started in the law school. So I do really very much want to introduce you guys to my team. I've got Allie and Jerry here. They can introduce themselves to you, but they have both been students with me for a really long time. I can't believe they're graduating. I'm a little bit in denial about that. But Mare, why don't you kick us off and tell them just a little bit about you, what brought you to the CSE Institute and what you're doing, and you're obviously staying. Yes. Yes. But just, tell them about your legal career and why you stayed on as a lawyer with us.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess I would say the theme of my legal career so far has been staying at the Institute. I chose to come to Villanova because of the Institute. Out of law school, I studied political science, studied Strasbourg University, and then I did the AmeriCorps for a year, and I was placed at a domestic and sexual violence resource center. And so that kind of got me started doing work like this. And I'd always planned on going to law school, and that kind of really solidified it because I saw the need that survivors had in my role there. So then I went to Villanova because they had an institute where I knew that I could get experience doing work like this. So you'll hear more about the process of how to join us. But in my 2 year, I started as an extern, and I externed for the whole year, my fall and spring semester. And then I worked as a research assistant for my 3L year. And then I applied to be a fellow at the Institute, which is a 2-year fellowship position. And we're going to talk a little bit more about kind of the variety of things we do in a little bit with Allie and Jerry and the ways that we all work together. But the main legal service that we provide, while it being a lot more than just this, the main one that we provide is Vacature, which is a criminal record clearing remedy that's available only to victims of sex trafficking in Pennsylvania. And so those, there's only a couple crimes, obviously one of them being prostitution, being the main crime that results directly from their victimization as victims and survivors. And so I'll stop talking now because I could go on for so long about that, but that is the main thing that I do. And I do work with another fellow. It's a really cool way that we work. It's a rotating fellowship. And we'll also get more into this, but a really important tenet of the Institute is being trauma informed. That's what I think sets us apart as an institute and as an educational tool, is really learning how to incorporate being a trauma-informed attorney in all ways. And one of those ways is having it be a rotating fellowship. So that way the clients never feel like one of the fellows leaves and then it's just a new person. There's always overlap. So that way that it's a personal handoff. They get to meet me while they're still working with my coworker. And that's just one of the cool ways that we try to structurally make sure that we're trauma informed. But I will let Allie introduce herself now.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here tonight. My name is Allyson Fifer. I am a 3L at Villanova Law. In 2019, I graduated from the College of New Jersey with a degree in business and marketing. And then I came here and I have been with the Institute since a 1L. I was able to get involved as a 1L blogger my second semester. And then I externed all of my 2L year, and then they still couldn't get rid of me. So now I'm still here in the capacity as a research assistant. So I get to kind of supervise a lot of the externs and their projects, which is really cool. Like Mary said, we'll kind of get into the nitty-gritty of what we do in a little bit, but after graduation, I will be working as a prosecutor in the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office.
Hi, everybody. My name's Shaen, and I'm also a 3L like Allie. I'm in my third semester in the Institute. I was an extern for 2 semesters, and now I'm on as a pro bono volunteer. I went straight through to law school from undergrad. I went to the College of William and Mary, and then came straight to Villanova Law. I really found my passion for labor and employment law in my time at the law school. And coincidentally, that has a lot to do with the work we do in the CSE Institute, not only in that vacature, the remedy that Mary mentioned, has a lot of overlap with employment and employment applications, but also because a lot of the policy work surrounding sex trafficking and the equality model intersects with information about labor and employment law and arguments about why the different policies should be enacted. So we'll talk more about that. I know I might not be making much sense, but I love the Institute and it's been a major part of my law school experience. So I am excited to be here.
There, my mute button was stuck. I'm so sorry, you guys. Mary, are they able to ask questions as we go? I forget how this works.
Yes, so they should all be able to ask questions in a Q&A. There's a Q&A function is set up. So we should,
wait, there's one there now. Why does the involvement in the CSE Institute look like is a 1L? Well, I will answer that question.
Oh, fabulous.
You see that?
Yeah, I didn't even see that.
I didn't either. Now I see it. I'm going to answer it live. Yay. So as a first year, your entire job is to be a first year law student. It's a whole new way of thinking. It's a whole new way of managing your time. And you cannot be a formal extern. And I'm going to get into the application process in just a moment with you guys about how to apply to be a formal extern with the Institute. But we had, over the years, been approached by so many first year law students. And how can I get involved? I want to learn more. I'm so interested in the work that you're doing. And again, I give my speech, like, your job is to be a first year law student. It is complicated. It is hard. I would, it takes a new type of discipline. It's a new type of learning and taking notes and how you study. And how you think. And it's really important that you focus all of your energy on, getting your core fundamentals. With that said, we do oftentimes have a lot of events. Of course, the last 2 years we've been in COVID, so the majority of our events have been virtual and not as frequent. But in the fall, we generally try to do like 1 or 2 evening type of panel discussions. We bring in panelists, maybe do a documentary screening or something like that. Obviously, we put that out to the entire law school community to please come and attend. But several years ago, I had 2 third-year law students, they're both now in private practice, approach me and say, hey, we are thinking that we have a website, it's cseinstitute.org, and we frequently publish what we call blog posts in our news feed. And it's just sort of commenting through our voice on cases that are happening in Pennsylvania and close to Pennsylvania, maybe sometimes a big, like a huge case nationally that everybody in the trafficking movement is watching, like when Centoya Brown was paroled from prison and granted clemency. That was really big, and we wrote on that quite a bit. But Megan and Allie, different Allie at the time, came and said, hey, we want to run a competition for 1Ls over winter break to see if anybody is interested in writing, a blog post once a month. And they created the topic, they put it together, they got all the submissions, and they made the decision about who was going to ultimately be our first year bloggers. Every year we run the competition. It is entirely student driven. So this year, because Allie was a first year blogger for us, she, along with another student, ran our blog competition over winter break. And Allie, do we have 3 bloggers this semester that are first year law students? So they do a blog post a month and we help them with their writing. It's a different way of writing. It's quasi-legal in the sense that we're explaining laws for like a global audience to be able to understand, encouraging law enforcement to do better with trafficking investigations, or the media with, the way that they're, publishing mugshots and things of that nature. But that's definitely a way for first years to engage. And then, of course, anyone who participates in the blog competition is always invited to attend our weekly meetings. They're team meetings, we call them. It's basically a weekly staff meeting. We have them on Mondays, and everybody, we run the meeting with an agenda. Someone takes minutes. Every student is tasked with having to prepare the agenda, prepare the minutes, and it usually they get to do 1 a semester generally. Depending on how many students we have, sometimes twice a semester, but it's gotten pretty rare. Everybody has to do it pretty much just 1 time. But we invite 1Ls to just kind of be a fly on the wall, listen and learn, and obviously if it doesn't conflict with their class schedules. So that's a really cool way right away for first years to get engaged with us. So how to become an extern, I want to tell you, and this has just reminded me, it was on my list of things to do last week, Mary, and I failed. But we need to put out a call for applications, and we invite 2nd and 3rd year law students to apply to become formal interns or externs is what we call them here. We're an internal external field placement. This is just like jargon for the law school. But you apply, you fill out a form. Why do you want to come? What do you think your strengths are? I request a resume and a writing sample, and then we make a decision as to what our capacity is, how much work we have. We always have tons of work, and whether or not we can support law students. I used to be very hard and fast with the rule that we didn't take more than 6. We have increased that to, I think, 10 at this point. But I can tell you that right now, because people apply to stay on a 2nd semester, and if they're granted right now, I have 15 externs, 3 research assistants, and 2 lawyers, I think. Again, I've been abroad, so forgive me, but we've grown every year. Yes, the process is competitive. Not everyone gets in. Sometimes, priority has to be given to third-year law students that are graduating, and sometimes second years have to apply again. And sometimes, Jerry has been with me this is, his third semester. He's not getting credit. He's doing this all pro bono because you max out, you can only do 2 semesters for credit. I used to have 1 research assistant. Our workflow got so huge that we had 2 research assistants for a while. Then we've gone up to 3. I don't know. I think it's been 3 years since 3 years that we've had 3 research assistants. So again, that's another way to stay on in somewhat of a leadership role. It's 3 credits. It's 135 hours a semester. And if you are doing your work, you hit 135 hours without any, it's not even an issue. I have most students, go way beyond that, just because they are very passionate about our work and really want to be engaged with the projects that we're working on. And again, like Jerry's been involved in a really cool project with a youth coalition, and provides technical assistance to that, is involved with the school district of Philadelphia doing some things, and was like, I don't want to leave this. Can I stay pro bono? Of course, follow through and finishing, things and seeing them through to the end, or being able to hand something off to a new student to take it over after graduation is something that, is really important to this culture and this team that we've cultivated with, within the Institute. Do you guys want to add anything else to that?
Sorry, I would just, I'll just add, I think that was great. I'd just add that I just put my email in the chat, so feel free to reach out. I'm sure we're going to cover a lot of stuff. We do love to talk, but I'm sure you might have more personalized questions, and we're happy to answer those as well. So I just want to make sure we throw that out there before I forget.
So I'm going to answer these questions really fast.
Yeah.
Hey, Mary,
Mary,
resend your email to everyone, because you only sent it to hosts and panelists.
Oh, so sorry.
Okay. So the first one is how competitive. It's competitive, and I will be quite honest, it gets more competitive every year as word, grows that we're amazing and everybody should want to be a part of us, part of the team. But I believe that most students do get an opportunity, maybe not necessarily for the first semester that they've applied to, but everyone does get an opportunity. I think it's really important for students to have a turn and to experience if that's something that they're passionate. Our work is passionate about, participating in. Do we mostly do policy work, or are there many opportunities for direct advocacy support for survivors? All of our work is grounded in survivors, survivor voices, listening to them, including our policy work. I'm a lawyer. I'm in the business of solving legal problems. I have been tasked a lot by Pennsylvania's legislator to make our laws stronger and better to support survivors. But there is no way on earth that I can help write a law or help a company or a prosecutor's office or a police department enact a policy that is going to impact survivors directly without getting their input. I think that is irresponsible. It's not necessarily unethical, but I think it's really important to pull survivors in and say, hey, this is something that we've been approached about writing. How could this possibly impact your life, or what do you wish would have happened? So there's direct involvement with survivors in that capacity. The longer you've been with us, there is more opportunity to engage directly in the legal work that we do with survivors. It's your first semester is a lot of foundational work, learning the policies, learning, our jargon, learning the way that we look, like the legal lens through which we look at the issue. I think it's really important to have a good foundation. And of course, having a true understanding about what being a trauma-informed lawyer is. It's one thing to be able to say, I took a class on being trauma-informed, I'm trauma-informed. No, you're not. You took a class. It means you need to learn how to thread through the core values of the provision of legal services that you're doing. It's really important to me as a leader and as the director of this institute to have a team that is also trauma-informed among ourselves. I think that recognizing the work that we do is incredibly heavy, is not always fun. We don't always win. There's lots of challenges. Even going to the legislature and advocating for something is a challenge, and a skill set that not everyone has and not everyone wants. But I think that taking care of ourselves and one another as a community is incredibly important. It's important to me. And I think that, you know, it starts with the leader, right? You set the tone as a leader, and it filters down throughout your staff. And I think of everyone who's part of the Institute, even from day one, you're part of a team. And I do a lot of collaborative work. I think, you know, Allie has sat in my office on more than one occasion and literally watched me type a letter because I wanted to bounce ideas off of someone, and she was the RA that was available. Mary did that for me also when she was a student. You know, Jerry pulls me into meetings and, you know, says, hey, I've got to do the Zoom. Can you just sit there and throw out ideas? So I think it's important for this culture, again, get the foundation and you have building blocks. And the longer you stay with us, the more opportunities you have to do the work with survivors. And how prevalent is the issue of sex trafficking in Philly, and how does it extend? We are statewide. We do legal work statewide. Absolutely do legal work statewide. We have a huge community out in Allegheny County that we provide technical assistance and support to. We don't necessarily have the ability to go to court out there, and we'll pull in some pro bono lawyers to work with us, but we're absolutely statewide as far as our, you know, legal work and our policy work. Obviously, it's for the entire Commonwealth as well. I cannot answer the question about prevalence. If I did so, I would be lying to you. Prevalence in this particular topic is really hard. You know, the sex trade is an underground industry. Prostitution is a crime in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and it's really hard to figure out what prevalence is. I will say that COVID has made things even more difficult. But if you are really interested, Mayor, throw in our 2021 report on stats. We do write a report every year on commercial sexual exploitation and what it's looking like in the Commonwealth, and we're getting ready to put a new one out now. We're able to gather data on prostitution arrests, sex buying arrests, trafficking arrests, and we kind of look at the way that the cases are being handled. You know, we have contacts in all 3 federal jurisdictions as well, and at the Attorney General's office. So, you know, prevalence a lot of times intersects with a criminal case being brought. But again, it would be impossible to tell you how many people are being trafficked. It would just be impossible at this point. Do we have more questions? We have more questions. Someone who...
I will say, despite not knowing, we definitely don't know the prevalence. I certainly have a lot of clients, so we know that it's happening quite a bit. We definitely have more clients in Philadelphia, but that relates more to our connections to Philadelphia and just how many more people are in Philadelphia than it does to necessarily telling us actual prevalence rates. But I can speak a little bit to the are there more questions, or am I?
Yeah, there is. There's one about triggers. So, you know, you have to be really mindful of triggers. You know, I personally don't give trigger warnings on anything because the name of my institute is the Institute to Address Commercial Sexual Exploitation. So I think the name of my institute is a trigger warning, right? And people do self-select to come and learn with us. With that said, there are a couple things that I do send out as required reading that I personally, I get really upset when I read them. Some are survivor written, and some are also, you know, some scholarship about review boards and what sex buyers have to say about the people that they've purchased. And I do give trigger warnings with that, especially also if we're going to watch what could be a really upsetting video and things like that. But I'm a Gen Xer, so my views on triggers are a little bit different. For example, in a criminal law class, when I took criminal law in the fall of 1994, there was no such thing as a trigger warning. And I think that, you know, the criminal law is something that you need to pass the bar exam, and it's important. And, you know, we live in a day and age where we could give a trigger warning to an entire room full of people on every single crime in the book. I'm a Philadelphian. I have been a victim of a crime, right? I've had my car broken into a million times. I've been sitting in my car and had the door blown off my car. I was a prosecutor. I've witnessed crimes. I've witnessed people being hit by cars. Again, my barometer for trigger warning is a little bit, I've got a high tolerance to that. With that said, I think something that will be really important to you as you're studying law is finding out where you find a niche, what you feel you have the capacity to do, and who you want to solve legal problems on behalf of. Because solving other people's legal problems is not about your feelings. No matter what type of legal problem someone has, again, it is not about your feelings. That doesn't mean don't have feelings. We all have feelings, right? And I can remember trying a particularly troubling child abuse case when I was a young DA and did not get a verdict that I thought was the right verdict, and cried and cried and cried in my office with my colleagues after the trial happened, right? I had a lot of feelings about that. And I think that part of going to law school and being exposed to different kinds of laws and different kinds of legal problems will give you, as you're kind of moving through your law school career, an ability to know what you have a tolerance for. Allie, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, I just also wanted to mention that something that might be a good option for anyone, but especially the person who asked this question, would be to possibly try out as a 1L blogger, because then you are invited as a 1L to the meetings. So you're more than welcome to come in, sit in, see if you feel comfortable with what's going on. And if you're not, you can absolutely leave. You don't have to try to be an extern. And that's before the point where you're like trying to earn credit for this. So that's kind of like a lower skin in the game type of way to kind of come in, see if you're feeling comfortable, if you're feeling safe doing the work. And if you'd like to continue, then you can absolutely try out as an extern. And if you're not feeling comfortable, you can just get up and leave and no one will judge you for it, because the work can get really difficult.
The other great thing is that you can self-select what projects you're working on as an institute extern. So I know personally, some of the projects that I know might be more upsetting for me, one in mind that Mary is also thinking of, I stayed away from because I knew that I didn't want to be involved, or I didn't want to look at that type of content. And I picked the projects that I was more passionate about, or that meant something to me beyond just what the Institute was doing with them. So by no means, when you get involved in the Institute, is it like you're signed on to every project, you have to do client work, you have to do everything we're working on. It's really a choose your own journey, and that you find your niche of what you want to be involved with and really where you want to make your mark with our Institute work. And I think for me, as Shea mentioned, it's been a lot of education, a lot of policy work behind the scenes, a lot of research, and ultimately I did end up getting involved in client work too. So it's really about what you want out of the experience.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. Just, obviously, since when I started in my position, Shea was in Europe. She's been in Europe for 6 months doing her Fulbright scholarship. So my role was, I had more supervising of externs probably than I will even moving forward, just because of logistics and time, 6-hour time differences and things like that. But it was a really cool experience of getting to do that much supervision and getting to learn. And that's one thing that I don't think Shea would ever hire someone who felt differently. Like anytime an extern is on a project, we give them the caveat before it even starts. Like, if at any point this is too much, like we know it's really heavy stuff, you're under a lot of pressure in law school, you'll hear from, groups about different lawyers struggling with substance abuse and things like that. We never would want to add to that. And we're very mindful of that. And we're so approachable. We are flexible schedule wise. Like that's the thing. The 135 hours is really what you make of it. People like obviously we do have external deadlines and things like that with court that are not flexible, but we always tell you about them before you sign up for something. We say like, this is going to be a quick turnaround. If it's going to be, we're always giving you the heads up. Hey, do you have a heavy week this week? Don't sign up for this because this is going to be a big one, like things like that. We're always, we're really mindful.
I mean,
of,
Mary, I even have students say, Shea, I really want to take that project on, but I have my moot court brief due and I have this due and I have that due. Can you wait till next Friday? If my answer is no, then somebody else will take the project. If my answer is yes, then like, again, I understand.
Exactly.
I went to law school. I work here in this law school.
Yes.
So
that's the really cool thing that like I obviously I said I was a student as well as now getting to work on this side of things. And that was something I was always really appreciative of. Like you will engage in different things. There will be like, I was a moot court girl, so I did remolls. Jerry runs a PIF auction. He's going to be doing that this spring. And so we're all really mindful of each other's big events. And we really try to make that, just a good experience for everyone and not something that's adding a ton of stress to your life, because I think we do it even more than maybe a regular or a different issue area because of the heaviness of the work, especially. At least that's why I do it sometimes. I'm like, if you need an extra week, take an extra week.
Yeah. So one of the other questions is about government agencies and how much involvement do we have with government agencies? It depends on what the government needs. I have done projects for, the State Department. I've done, not the federal State Department, Pennsylvania State Department, the Office of Children and Youth. Let's see, I've done work for the governor's office. I've done work with the lieutenant governor's office. We've been doing some work right now with the State Board of Pardons. We do a lot of work with the Office of Victim Advocate, which is a state agency within the Department of Corrections. I've done a lot of work within the Department of Corrections. With local governments, it just depends. I've done a ton of work with the Philadelphia Police Department, with the SEPTA Police Department, which is quasi-governmental. I do a ton of work for individual legislators' offices, have great relationships on both sides of the aisle. And, when I was in Europe, got a call from, a state senator who needed something from me. And, because I was abroad and I have this amazing team here, we were able to turn something around really quickly. We have a contract with the state of Delaware with their Human Trafficking Interagency Coordinating Council. I do a ton of work with an organization called World Without Exploitation that Jerry has also been really involved in with their youth coalition, because I'm on the executive committee and was one of the founding steering committee members. We've been asked by federal legislators to look at laws and policies that they're thinking about proposing. We work with stakeholders in Washington, D.C. who are on the ground in D.C. working with the federal government. It really just depends on who needs what and who's asking us to do things. Part of Mary's job is with the Public Defender's Office in Philadelphia. I have a contract with them, and when Mary is representing a client who was also represented by the public defender, Mary is a public defender in the city of Philadelphia. She has a supervisor down there who is a good friend of mine, and we work really closely, but, it really depends. I get pulled in and asked, by judges. The Administrative Office of Pennsylvania Courts has a ton of work that we intersect with. And one of the lawyers who used to have Mary's job is now working for the Administrative Office of Pennsylvania Courts. So it kind of depends. I used to, for a period of time, do a lot of work in the state of Nebraska. That kind of dried up, but we've worked on New Jersey, New York, Georgia. It doesn't, yes, we are housed here in Pennsylvania, and that is where I think our bread and butter is. And also, I think if we're not doing work in the very state in which we're located, then something is wrong. But, it doesn't mean that we're just limited to the confines of Pennsylvania. We've been pulled in to do stuff in New Jersey as well. Go ahead, Jer.
Not to interrupt you, Shea, but I think that this question really ties into something that was brought up earlier about how often do we work with survivors? And I think that when Shea says everything we do is grounded in survivor work, a lot of the education Shea's talking about, especially with policymakers and legislatures, trickles directly down to impact survivors. Because I know this sounds crazy, but the definition of sex trafficking and the understanding of what sex trafficking is still really a developing issue. Most people think it's the movie Taken, but it's often happening right in the town where you are. And a lot of people don't understand that. So all of the education we do, be it with legislatures, district attorneys, it impacts survivors and that it helps our mission with Vacature, but it also gains recognition of what the issue looks like. And as more people kind of buy into our cause and our movement and what we're working on, it all directly starts to affect survivors. So that's what we mean. That's what we mean, that everything we do really impacts survivors.
Also, just, something that's really interesting. We get pulled into helping develop and write amicus briefs. We've done them for the Supreme Court of the United States. We recently filed one with a group in the state of Wisconsin. Allie or Mayor, can you throw up Crystal Kaiser's case? Just so that the Supreme Court of Wisconsin just heard oral arguments on Crystal Kaiser's case, and we wrote an amicus. We didn't we weren't the lead writers on that, but we did sign on to that. We've been really involved in looking at other issues, the Cosby case. Obviously, if you're a Pennsylvanian, specifically from southeastern Pennsylvania, you have been sort of like front and center of that being part of what's happening legally. The United States Supreme Court just denied cert in that case, but because of my relationships with the prosecutor's office and other stakeholders, we were really involved in drafting an amicus that we signed on to in the Cosby case. So it's not just squarely exploitation in the traditional sense of sex trafficking, but we do have a breadth of knowledge. And my co-founder is Professor Michelle Dempsey, and Michelle is a world-renowned international scholar on domestic violence, sexual violence, the issue of consent, and obviously prostitution and sex trafficking. And, she's getting ready to go to Israel this semester to present. So like Michelle truly is like the creme de la creme of scholars. And she is my partner in this. We created it together. The Dean mentioned a survivor symposium. So this summer, June 7th, I believe, we have a big meeting to discuss it. We're going to be doing a scaled back version of our survivor symposium. We had geared up a 2.5-day symposium that was going to be April 1st and 2nd of 2020. And obviously the world came to a screeching halt. We had to cancel all of it. So we're going to dip our toe back in slowly and build back up. But we invite survivors to either participate on panels or, moderate a panel. And for a long period of time, 3 or 4 years, we had survivors developing workshops that they would come here and teach to our community. I think that dipping our toe back in slowly and getting our feet back on a day-long symposium that we host here in the in the law school space will be something that we'll do this June before we just start ramping back up and doing a big, huge conference. But again, it's reaching out to the survivor community and saying, hey, this is, kind of themes that we're seeing. And we want to put together a day-long event talking about those themes from a legal perspective. For instance, one of the things that I haven't sent out formal invitations yet, but one of the things that we're thinking about is the issue of vacature at the federal level. And right now, if a trafficking survivor has a conviction for trafficking, or, a violation of the Mann Act, or tax evasion or something that was a direct result of their victimization, the only remedy that they have for that conviction right now is a presidential pardon. And so we're thinking about the different layers of where we need to expand policies. And again, who, is directly impacted and has those types of issues, I think is really important to bring them in so we can, inform the legal community and the general stakeholder community about them. This question is really good. Interested in getting involved, but don't want to do this work as a career. You don't have to. I mean, I think that foundationally, the skills that you learn in the Institute are, going to take you far no matter what you do. I mean, Jerry's going to work, in employment discrimination. He's had his job offer for quite some time now. I've had, former students who were federal law clerks and who've gone on to, work in big law. The cool thing about them working in big law is that when I need a lawyer in Texas, I've got, alumni in Texas at big law firms who are so willing to engage in a case, maybe pro bono, or have contacts, down there. I have students who now represent, schools and school districts, and they've gotten wind, like, we've got a trafficking problem where kids are really talking about this, and they'll pull us in to give seminars and workshops and teach, young students and their parents on awareness. And so it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to want to do this as a career or be a prosecutor or a criminal defense attorney. But I do think that what is foundationally important to me is sending law students and these future lawyers out into the world to be trauma informed, no matter who their clients are. I think that the practice of law is a human service. And even if you represent a corporation, you're still talking to a human being on the other side of that phone. You're still impacting the world and the community. And so I think that, the thinking skills, the analytical skills, how to look at laws, how to write legislation, how to analyze pending legislation and say, hey, no, this is never going to work. I think all of the skills will inform your legal career no matter what. I'm self-taught legislation writer. And the reason why I write legislation and can do it is because I was a prosecutor. And I know how to interpret laws, and I know how juries ultimately are tasked with deciding whether or not the law fits the facts of the case and the evidence in the case that they just heard. So I think that, I'm really practical in nature, and hope that I send lawyers out into the world who are going to be awesome and amazing and successful no matter what they choose to do.
Yeah, and even more specifically to that, just to even more like detailed read the client work, I would say one of the main skills you would get out of the client work that we do. So I'll walk you through a tiny bit through the vacature process. So a client has to give us basically tell the court why, like what their life circumstances were that led them to the victimization and that led to them to receive the criminal record. And so we have to do, the first step is doing an affidavit interview. So that's like a 2-hour interview with a survivor of chronic sexual violence. And a lot of our clients are experiencing homelessness currently. A lot of our clients are at various stages of sobriety and different things like that. So as Shea said, no matter who you're talking to a person. And I don't really know too many harder audiences to talk to. I mean, I've learned more about talking to human beings in general from watching my coworker getting trained under her, interviewing people, doing affidavit interviews, because you're talking to someone and you just ask them, where did you grow up? And then you receive, a waterfall of information of traumatic experiences. And then you're supposed to continue the interview and get the information that you need to present to the court, which is a really fine balance. And so it's kind of, I guess, like it's almost like running with weights on. Like if you learn interview skills in that setting, I can't imagine that it would be harder to talk to somebody who doesn't have any of those circumstances going on and maybe has, a lesser set of issues that are before you. So
I'm just going to answer this question. I want you guys to tee up your answers to this question while I answer the first question. What's a highlight or defining moment of your experience with the Institute? So what have former externs or fellows gone on to do? City solicitors, prosecutors, public defenders, working in big law. I have one lawyer who does ERISA litigation. She's based out of Chicago. I have a former intern who's a prosecutor in Chicago. I have a city solicitor out in Seattle, Washington. I have one student out in the Tacoma, Washington area who's currently running for state office to be a member of his House of Representatives. got some DC-based lawyers, Texas-based lawyers in big law, right? Like whether it be general litigation practice. I have one former student who just received her LLM in human rights from King College, and she's currently living in London, looking for a job in human rights, but also working part-time in big law for a firm that she used to that she has worked at this whole time based out of their London office, and she does mergers and acquisitions. Many federal law clerks, state law clerks as well. I'm trying to think. We've got people all over the place. We really do. California lawyer. Annie is out in California working. What's her job? She's got a cool job out there.
She is doing working in a legal aid office, doing, I forget exactly what, but it's something very interesting.
I think it's like education,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, education. That's true. Her family, that is her. We were friends as well, me and Annie, and she's doing education law. And we have people at Philadelphia Legal Assistance doing really great. Omid is doing a really
he's in their tax department.
He keeps a winning award. Like he is really like a vocal person on taxes in the area. Like he's on the news speaking about it. So really like it's cool that no matter where Institute externs end up, they end up kind of being shining stars, not to brag, but it's true.
Of course they're shining stars. All of you guys are shining stars. I have former students who are working for foundations, working in philanthropy. I've had a couple students during the time they were in law school spend time with the International Justice Mission, abroad. One went to Ghana, one went to Cambodia, and they worked in the space of labor trafficking over there. Again, very interested in continuing to work in this space. But you guys, why don't I stop talking for a minute and you tell them about like a defining moment or a highlight of being with the Institute. Allie, you talk first.
Okay. I don't really have like one huge like lightning strike moment, but especially recently, like I'm getting ready to graduate and I'm getting emotional about it. But just like thinking back about how much I've learned and grown, and I attribute almost all of that to this institute. I learned so much practical skills. I gained some of my absolute best friends in the world. And it really taught me like what I want to do and like why. So I came into law school knowing that I wanted to do criminal law, but I wasn't really sure exactly where my skill sets fit in. And then being with the Institute, I became so passionate about these issues, and now I just absolutely can't see myself doing anything else. So I know that's not really answering like exactly your question, but yeah, it's just been so awesome. Every day has been so much fun, and you just learn so much, and you don't realize how much you're learning until you have that opportunity to kind of reflect on it. And I think no matter like what capacity, I think there's always something to be really, really proud of, because you really are doing work that's so impactful and it really does help people. And that's an amazing opportunity to get as a law student. So I hope that helps.
I can go next. I think specifically, when we do trainings with any group, namely with social workers, we'll often do like a role play. And we'll have our Institute externs portray survivors of sex trafficking. And so I got to portray a survivor one time. And I just remember not only how meaningful it was for the group that we were educating to kind of play that role and have them truly see what someone in that position would behave like and how they understand the situation they're going through. But also to feel like as an attorney that I was so trauma informed and empathetic that I was able to do justice to someone who's been in that position. And I think that more generally, the Institute's really trained me on how to advocate for my position. We are in a really hard position and that we're advocating for something that not a lot of people understand and that not a lot of people are informed on yet. And a lot of people have differing views to kind of the position we take in the Institute. And a lot of times you just want to yell and you want to say, how can you look at this any other way than in my position. And something I talk about with Mary all the time is that doesn't work. That you have to be willing to invite people to the table. You have to be willing to have the conversation and walk through it step by step with them. And you have to be willing to retort to their challenges. And I think that the Institute really has set me up to do that well, be it in the space of sex trafficking or sexual exploitation, or in my job as a labor and employment litigator. I think that I'm more than equipped to do that now because of the Institute.
Yeah, unfortunately, if yelling worked, we would have already achieved everything we wanted to achieve. We're very good at yelling. I'll just go real quick. I have two like mini ones that are pretty specific. I love Ally's general answer of everything. I second that, but specifically this year, my first vacature petition that I worked on from start to finish with the client in my role. She was a really amazing woman, and we were able to get vacature for her so she could clear her criminal record so she could adopt a baby and get a job with the court system. So literally it was just like this woman got up and told the judge what it meant to her, and like getting just to hear her talk about, she literally is getting a child because of, this barrier being removed. So that was really, an incredible day. And then recently, and a really cool thing that I think this job has really taught me, and a cool thing to know going into law school, is how much you are going to continue to work with your law school classmates moving forward. So being mindful of that in all ways, in good ways, and also maybe like, a lot of people come right out of college. Just remember, like, law school parties maybe are a little different. Maybe we're.
Wait, Mayor, I don't want to interrupt you, but I do want to say something.
Oh, Shea loves this topic.
I look at law, and I'm tough on you guys about this. You know that I am. You are in law school. It's a professional career, and everything that you do in law school is going to follow you forever. Remember that in my opinion, you're on a 3-year-long job interview. Everything that you do among your classmates, with the faculty here, with the people that you meet at events that you go to. I graduated from law school in 1997, and I can recall shenanigans that 3Ls in 1994 and 1995 were involved in, and I still see some of them, and I still have that impression of them. So stuff that you do in law school will follow you into your career. And at some point, some of you will hopefully be hiring managing lawyers, and you will recall what your law school classmates did and what they were up against. Don't throw up unless you're sick in front of a whole bunch of people. Don't wear inappropriate attire to a cocktail party that judges and lawyers are going to be at. And this is regardless of whether or not you pick Villanova as your school. You are going to law school to get a job as a lawyer to solve other people's legal problems. Act accordingly, please. And, people remember things. I run into former classmates, people that were in law school at the same time that I was. And I'm like, I just, oh God, please remember things. There are other, people that I have been involved with and refer cases to. They call me for advice. So again, you're setting the foundation for your future career. Just really remember that. And I don't mean to sound tough. I'm just saying, like, people have long memories, and the practice of law in a city like Philadelphia, which is a huge major city, stretches far and wide. It's the suburbs, it's New Jersey, it's New York. We have New York prosecutors as well, and New York public defenders as well. But like, you guys just remember, like, who you are and what you put forth into your pre-practice of law is going to follow you everywhere. Mary, I'm sorry, keep going.
No. And the positive side of that, and the effect of that, to illustrate everything that Shea just said, which is I totally second, and is that I was able to about a month ago, but we were finalizing it last week, call a classmate who now works at the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office. And we got our first vacature petition filed because of our conversation with a Villanova Law alumni who now works as an ADA, who I was in a bunch of classes with, who I, just texted and said, "What's your work email?" so I can email you professionally, and it's this amazing thing. And now we're in this new county. And so you guys, if you join us, we'll learn a lot more about vacature, but it's a slow going process because it's very new in the state. So it's sort of like a slow spread. So we're very excited to have that happen, and all happen between, you know, just Villanova alum calling a Villanova alum. So things like that are really cool.
You know, how do we separate ourselves from our clients? I encourage everyone to have a really good support system outside of work. I think that within work, we have an incredible support system for one another, but outside of work is also really important. I have amazing friends. I have a therapist. I've had vicarious trauma. I tried a lot of really horrifically violent cases when I was a prosecutor. And I've kept a therapist for all these years to kind of touch base with and tweak any issues that I have, because again, solving other people's legal problems is not about my feelings, but if I don't take care of me, I am not going to be good at solving other people's legal problems. So I think that throughout law school, no matter what it is that you want to do, you have to take care of yourself. I have pretty bad jet lag and have been up at 4 a.m. walking around, and will get up and answer a whole bunch of emails in the morning, and then I'll do a 3-hour run and get ready and come out. I teach a late night class on Thursday nights. So again, like if you got to do yoga at lunch, you got to do yoga at lunch. Make sure that you get your work done, and that your supervisor, no matter where you are, what you're doing, isn't looking for you. My team, I'm never looking for my team. I know where they are. Not because I'm a micromanager, but because if they have a doctor's appointment, go. If I know that on Tuesdays, my team works remotely because they've got a couple things going on in their world, they do that. But I also know that they get their work done. And I'm never chasing after them to get work done. I'm going to chase myself to get some work done, because I think I missed a deadline, Mary. I really do, with this new application for the spring. I think I missed a deadline, but it happens. And
First thing tomorrow.
Okay. I just think it's really important that you figure out what works for you, whether it be, you don't have time to clean your toilets, so are you going to write your budget to be able to have a housekeeper? Do you need to send out your laundry? Do you need to, what are you going to do to take care of yourself, right? Like I have flowers sitting right here on my desk because my team knows that I love fresh flowers. And when I came back, that was something that they did that was really, really nice for me. I think, again, working in a community that takes care of one another is really important, but also having an outside community of support is really, really important. I think that empathizing with our clients is really good. And I find that sometimes I roll my eyes and like walk away, and I'm like, I got to get a grip, because, I'm not serving my clients well. And to have that self-awareness and sort of build that up is also something that you will learn to do. There was a self-deprecating question up here. Yes, your classmates are going to be awesome at Villanova, but if you really are passionate about being part of the CSE Institute, I have no doubt that you will be part of it.
I know we have to wrap up, but I can't believe no one has brought this up yet, and I just wanted to mention it. But the community that you get as a CSE Institute extern is also one of the things that I will walk away from law school with. Allie and one of the other RAs, Casey, and I are actually living together next year. I have the Institute to thank for that. They are two of my closest friends in law school and in life, and I have to thank Shea and Mary for bringing us together. So it's an incredible experience. And if you do become a part of it, you will walk away with a wonderful network of friends and acquaintances that you'll work with as well.
I mean, just to give you one more example, I've been a lawyer in the Philadelphia area for 25 years, and I have worked on this issue statewide for about 10 years. And Allie and Jerry are participating in another class this semester, which brings judges and practitioners. It's the sentencing workshop together. And they wound up at a table with one of my closest friends, who's a judge in Allegheny County. So just because, you might choose Villanova as your law school. I hope you choose Villanova as your law school, and I do hope you come to do work with us. But networking is a skill that I think can be taught, because I teach it and I push my students hard to do that, because the practice of law is all about who you know and the connections that you make. I'm getting ready to go on one of my one of my classmates from law school's podcasts. She's written a couple of books. I've been doing some work with another one of my classmates who's down in Norfolk, Virginia. A couple of my classmates are, managing partners at law firms, and they are hugely supportive of us financially, as well as bring us in to do CLEs to their lawyers. So again, who you are in law school really will set the tone. But I think a lot of what you do and is networking and pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. I signed a letter of recommendation for a student yesterday and scrambled last minute to get it done. But again, I make phone calls and connect people and put people in, I think I want to do this, Shea, go have coffee with this person, send me an email and I'll make an introduction. I think it's really, really important to advocate for yourself, ask for things, be curious, and you will go so far. You will go so far. You really will. Any other last minute questions?
I was just going to go off of that really quickly and just say, all of that is absolutely true. We were in that workshop and I recognized the judge who Shea was just talking about and had not even an ounce of anxiety going up and talking to him, because I felt comfortable to be able to do that because of this and the connections that we've made through it. So that's all absolutely true.
Yeah. You never know who is going to be sitting next to you on your first day in alphabetical order of law school. You just don't. It will take you far. I'm excited for you guys. I'm feeling nostalgic. Maybe I should go to law school again. I don't know.
I know this has been an incredibly emotional panel for all of us. In case it wasn't clear, we're all obviously reminiscing with our 3Ls. Very sad that they're leaving us. And we, hope that you will join our amazing community and know that you will be joining our amazing legal community at large either way. But we can let you guys go unless there's
and you guys, please, if this particular panel has left you with unanswered questions, even just about law school, legal career, anything, shoot me an email. I'll jump on a private Zoom with you. I have no problem with that. I'm an alum and I think it's really, never in a million years. And I'm telling you, never in a million years did I ever think I would be working at Villanova Law, and I am. And it's, you just never know where your career is going to take you and whose lives you're going to impact, right? I have this amazing opportunity to shape and mold the future lawyers of the world, and just think it's phenomenal. As a feminist and as someone who, I'd say this to my team, I'm going to get hit by a SEPTA bus as I text and walk across the street. I have no doubt in my mind that the next generation of lawyers is going to continue the good work that we started and go out into the world and just be amazing, no matter where your career takes you. And to be able to see this sort of on this side of my career is really cool. Anyway, I'm old now.
That's all great stuff. Thank you guys all so much.
You guys,
you all have a wonderful night, and email us and we'll hope to hear from you soon.
Yeah. Congrats again.